My
Oh, we're
running
live.
problem. Hello, everyone. We are here. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are viewing from. As you know, my name is Joanna Danielle. I'm founder of Lucis Cars, and I'm here with a colleague, and I'm going to let her tell you her name and where she is from.
Hi, everyone. My name is Natalia, and I'm from Christ Therapy, and I'm based in the Midlands. And I'm looking forward to tonight.
Yeah. So Natalia is a counselor as well. Natalia works with you work with adults as well, but you work with children and young people as well, don't you?
Yes, I do. Young people mainly, more
Young
than
people
really
mainly.
young children, like teens, and then adults as well.
And I have to say, God bless you for working with teens because I know that's challenging, isn't it?
It is challenging. It's really rewarding, but challenging. Yeah.
It's rewarding but challenging. I know. I know. I mean, I have teens. I know that it's not like pulling things out of them can be
Mm-hmm.
challenging. But as we're talking about crisis, we know that they have their little crises as well, don't they?
Mm-hmm. They do.
We can see that somebody's here. Natalia, do you want to introduce the program and like let's talk about why we feel like we should do this, how often we're going to be here, and what we hope to achieve, what we hope to do with the therapy room.
Okay, guys. So, um, me and Joanna had this idea that it would be nice to create this space because I'm always talking about this space where you can be free to speak, to explore, to have some support, to have people that genuinely care about you.
Yes.
So we've thought that, by God's grace, it would be a good idea for us to come on YouTube and just provide this space for people. Because in church, a lot of times we do have that space for Bible study and we have that space for prayer and we have that space for lunch. We have that space for just general chit chat. But actually, like getting to know each other and speaking about things that are hard to talk about or just knowing that it's safe to have these conversations. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what led us to start the therapy room. We're
Yeah.
hoping to do it every Friday. Is that right? Every Friday?
Yes, we are hoping to be as regular as we can. I can
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. So around this time, 8 p.m. England time.
Yeah.
And we're just going to have different topics every week and just go from
Yes.
there. But Joanna, maybe, I don't know if you want to tell them, but should we tell them now or tell them later about potentially?
No, let's tell them now.
Yeah.
Let's tell everybody now. So what we want to do as well is we know that we want to answer your questions. We want to be able to provide support for those who are struggling and don't have anywhere to go with your questions around your mental health, around managing the different challenges that you're managing with. We have Natalia here, so you can ask about your children and how to support them. I believe as parents, we need to be able to support our children when they go through difficulties. And if we don't have the right language or the right tools to use, we won't be able to support them. So we are going to, after we meet here, we go transition to Zoom, a more private space where you can ask the questions that you're not comfortable asking on YouTube and you might
Mhm.
not want to be answered on YouTube. So we're going to have we're going to share opportunities that you can have to join us
Mhm.
in YouTube, in rather in Zoom, so we can have a more exclusive therapy room. But we'll tell you some more about that in due course. So if
Yeah.
you are here, please share the video. Please let your friends know that we've started and the therapy room is live. And they should come and ask their questions or message their questions or send their questions through you. But we want to be able to answer your questions tonight. So, want to tell us what we're going to talk about tonight, Natalia? Tell them what we were going to talk about tonight.
Yeah. We was going to talk about the crisis and Christ. So when we say the word crisis, I'm just thinking like, I like to self reflect. Sorry, guys. The word crisis, I'm just thinking like what comes up for me,
Yeah.
that word. And what comes up for me is like confusion, shock,
Yeah.
stress,
That's it.
anxiousness. I'm just thinking about whoever is here who's listening. I just want you to just have a little bit of self-reflection yourself and think, right, what comes up? What comes up for me when I say the word crisis? Because
Mm.
it's important to, understand what that is for you. And
Yeah.
just to get this therapy room started, I thought it would be good to explore that because there's so much stuff going on in the world right now, Joanna.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And we're all going through our own internal crisis. And
Yeah.
you don't always have that space to, talk about it. It's not, I don't know. That's what I'm.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, maybe those who are listening can tell us, like, what is a crisis for them? Like, what do you understand by the word crisis? Because sometimes, just to while people are thinking, a crisis doesn't have to be. I was gonna say it doesn't have to be big, Natalia, because everybody's crisis is different, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We have different kinds of crises. We have crises in our families, in our homes, in our personal life, in our spiritual life. A physical health challenge might be a crisis. Financial difficulties is a crisis. A new diagnosis that is big is a crisis. A mental health diagnosis is a crisis. Just different types of crises. Was that what you meant?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get. I don't know, just looking at it, just to just be with that and just think, what does that bring up for you? And another thing as well, whoever is tuning in or whoever may tune in later, what's brought you here? I'm interested to know that. Like, what brought you here? Have you ever thought about therapy before? Like, what is your thoughts on therapy?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking this is nice to be on YouTube, but it would be really nice to, like, I'm not on the YouTube right now, Joanna, so I can't see if there's like any comments or anything like that. Are you?
Oh, no comments yet, but I can no comments yet, but I can see that we have some people watching. We really appreciate you. If you want to comment, there are ways to comment live. There are ways to comment live on YouTube. So I'm gonna comment so people can see what it is. How they can comment.
Yeah. And although this isn't therapy as such, because one-to-one work is completely different to this, it's more personal and it's more, about you. But me and Joanna wanted to provide a space that was like, accessible and free for people to come along to. So we just wanted to kind of put that out there as well, because at the time when I was going through my crisis, back in 2019, I'd be on YouTube and trying to search for these sort of stuff, and it just didn't exist, Joanna.
It didn't. And that's why I started Wounds to Scars, because I thought I wanted a place when I was in crisis and I was wanting somebody to talk to. I wanted, in the middle of the night when pain seems worse, Natalia, in the middle of the night somehow. Sunset and you have a toothache in the middle of the night is the worst thing. And then as the sun rises, the pain recedes.
Yeah.
So those times when there was just nothing, no support like this, nobody to talk to. You sit with it on your own and having to battle and wrestle with it on your own. So that's why Wounds to Scars is so important to me, because I wanted it to be that place for people. And I know you have a similar mission for Christ Therapy.
Yeah. With Christ Therapy, it's a place it's personal, to be honest. It started with myself. Back in 2019, I was experiencing depression. And I couldn't really find anything. I didn't really have that space where I could really work out what was going on in my mind. And I didn't really want to tell people because there's this stigma that's attached to
Yeah.
depression or any kind of
Especially if you're a
mental
Christian.
health. Yeah, it's like, oh, what's wrong with you? You know, so I didn't really want to like be exposing myself, and I was very aware of being vulnerable around people who it wasn't safe to be vulnerable around. So anyway, like I was saying, I was trying to search for something like this on the internet, and it just wasn't there. And when I had my experience with the Lord, when he helped me to, you know, get through the depression, like find the tools to be able to move through it and be happier. And I went into therapy. I started understanding Jesus for myself, and I did a lot of work on myself. So that's where God led me to start doing Christ therapy. And Christ therapy it's basically a counseling ministry, which just helps people basically like with their emotional needs and their if that makes sense.
I think it's important that people hear what you say. You know, you said I went into therapy, I accessed Christ. It's just and also that we kind of let people know that there are different kinds of depression, as people probably would know. Mild, moderate, chronic, clinical. So Natalia went into therapy. It's so important because sometimes these things we can't you can't think your way out of depression. You just can't. There are many people who live with high functioning depression. There are people with depression, but they can function. They can go to work. They can pay the bills. They can do the school run, make dinner, those kind of things. But they're really struggling still. And there are people who can't do those things when they have depression. So it's important for people to know that if you have depression and you can't, that nothing, I was going to say nothing's wrong with you. It's okay that you get support to help you. It really is okay.
It is okay. And it's needed, I would say.
It is
from the people that I work with, my clients, and even from my own personal experience, I really do truly believe it is needed sometimes.
I wonder if we can ask the people we wouldn't ask. Let's ask, what are the myths that you've heard about therapy? Like, have you heard people say anything about therapy that have put you off, or you've never heard anything about it? We want to know if people. This is the therapy room. We're going to talk about all things therapy and Christ. So, because we believe they're not mutually exclusive. So we want to know if you've ever heard anything about therapy that puts you off from ever accessing therapy, ever seen a counselor. Like, if they think it's like in the movies, maybe not in the movies now, but back then you lie on a couch and the man sits with his pen and he's in the glasses and he's looking at you for his glasses and he's taking notes. If people think that's what it's like. If you've ever, maybe because this is Wounds to Scars, and share the link as well to your community, Natalia. Maybe we're talking to the choir. These people they're familiar with therapy, and maybe are here because they want some help for their crises. Let's talk about some of the things that we do when we're in crisis, while people think they want to answer a question. What are some of the things you do when you're in crisis?
You want to know me in Christ or me not in Christ? Which one? Because I had
both.
I had different ways of dealing with my crises. I'm still growing. I'm still growing.
I mean, but what's that though? What does that mean? Like, I'm still growing. Like, it's like some coping strategies are more spiritually mature. Some are not as spiritually mature. What do you mean you're still growing? Because I just think coping strategies are coping strategies. Some are effective. Some are not effective. Some are healthy. Some are not healthy. What do you mean you're growing? You're growing through not using some unhealthy ones.
Yes. So
okay.
Before I really started this authentic relationship with the Lord, I would use old habit strategies. So that would look like going to the shop and buying some cigarettes? Or
Right.
is it okay to be real on here? Is that okay?
That's the only way.
Yeah, or it would be just, ringing someone up and just trying to get some weed. Like that's how I used to cope with my crisis. Like the crisis is a
Yeah.
thing that kind of builds up. So it's stress,
Yeah.
and then it's more stressed, and then it's irritation on stress, and then it's like I can't
Yeah.
take it anymore. Like that's it now. Like
Let me avoid all this buildup of stress.
yes, I need to be brought back down. So that's what I would do. And it was an instant relief for me in my crisis.
Yeah.
It was, and it wasn't healthy at all, but that's how I learned, like growing up. That's just what I did. That was my environment of
Did it help the crisis?
Sorry?
Did it help the crisis? Did it help the crisis?
It did. It did help the crisis.
Did it fix it? Did it fix what was happening, or it make you feel better?
It made me feel better. But the crisis didn't leave. It just kind of tamed it,
That's the thing, yeah.
It was like, bye, crisis, but then the crisis comes back slowly.
Yes.
Again.
Yes.
So it's a cycle.
It is so it took the edge off. It took the edge off the feeling that you just described that was building, but it didn't. And so while I didn't smoke, my coping strategies weren't always healthy either. It would be gorging on books, reading books, the romance novels.
What's wrong with that, Joanna? What's wrong with that?
Huh?
Reading, that's a good thing.
Wait, too much of it though. Too much of it. I just think I'm packing all these things in my head. It's still shutting down the frontal lobe, right? It's still living in the emotional brain. I would watch movies. I would watch hours and hours and hours and hours. And it's still whiling away my time. It's still not using my time well. So even though on the face of it might look like, well, that's not too bad, you're reading. Now you want to forget some of the things you did read. You can't. It's not so easy to forget some of the things that you read. And I said to my children, I want you to read healthy, wholesome things, because when you want to think about what's pure, what's true, what's good, and you have the challenge now of those things that is written in your brain, you're trying to not think, and there's the battle now to manage your thoughts, because you want to think on what's pure, what's true, what's good. So some coping strategies, and in our context, as we're all Christians here, in our context, it wasn't healthy coping strategy. That, I mean, the world might go, but you were reading, that's wonderful. I love books. You were watching hours and hours of movies, like Netflix wasn't around, but just it was avoidance. It's still avoidance. I was avoiding dealing with the issues. And so that's what I did. But we're going to talk about some strategies that we use to stay present, to sit with the issues, so that we're not doing what we used to do. But before that, Glenn said, hello, Glenn. Daniel, how are you? He said, they say you're crazy if you're getting therapy, Natalia.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
Well, can I say one thing? Let me just mention one thing, Joanna. When I was in therapy, I actually told my counselor my coping strategy. I told her I want to go to the shop and buy some cigarettes. And she was like, Natalia, that is not a good idea, because if you go and smoke them cigarettes, you like the plan that you had to not do that. Yeah, you're gonna let yourself down. You're gonna give yourself a headache. And it's like she held me accountable, because I started counseling saying I want to have better coping strategies. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. So people can think it's crazy, but I'm a living testimony that if you go to a counselor that has the same beliefs as you, right? Not any old counselor, someone who is in the same mindset. This is the person that prays to the same God as you.
Yeah.
To me, it literally saved my life. I would say God sent this counselor to save my life. That's how serious it was.
It actually keep you sane.
It did.
As opposed to your counselor will help you stay sane.
Yeah.
Because when I was healing, that's what it helped. He helped me stay sane. Otherwise, you just it becomes the crisis overwhelms you, and
Mhm.
you're not coping. And Joyce says people think seeing a therapist is lacking in faith.
Ooh.
It's a big one, isn't it?
Yes.
Reminds me of the title of our book.
Yes.
I we we'll tell you more about the book coming out
Mhm.
soon. But it's lacking faith, Natalia. If we see a counselor.
Joanna, I put in that same book, I'll share a little bit,
Mm,
just a little
mm, mm,
drop. In that same book, I mentioned that if I was persuaded that Bible study and prayer could have helped me to overcome my depression alone, I wouldn't still be in the church.
mm,
And that's our truth. That is literally my truth, because I had Bible studies, I had people praying for me. Well, they said they was praying for me, but
yeah.
I needed more. Like when I cried out to the Lord and said, "Where are you?" The Lord provided me
Mhm,
with Bible study. The Lord provided me with people praying for me. The Lord provided me with a counselor. Do you understand?
mhm,
So it's holistic to me. It's
mm,
like if you have faith that you can't please
yeah,
God without faith and works. Faith
mm, mm,
is one thing, but doing the
mhm,
work is another thing. And people kind of,
yeah,
in my opinion, it's like, because sometimes we can just be a bit ignorant. Like, you don't realize
yeah,
that a lot of things stem from childhood. Even with me, with my smoking strategies, I see my mum smoke.
yeah,
So as a
yeah,
little girl, I
yeah,
see my mum, she'll go and take a puff when she's angry or stressed out.
yeah.
I grow up, I go take a puff when I'm angry or
That's
stressed out.
it.
I didn't,
That's it.
like, until you go and do that work, you can't make sense of it, and God has
No.
blessed people who love him to have the skills
Yeah.
to help with this sort of thing. No offense, but if your car broke down, yeah,
Mm.
would you just pray that God could fix it, or would you pray that God can fix it and lead you to the right mechanic?
You're right, mechanic. Yeah, there you go. There you go. There
You
you
can't
go.
just pray and
So
say, Lord, please fix the car, because
yeah,
he can fix the car, but he's going to send you to the person that can help you fix the car.
yeah, yeah. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. And I think we do got an injustice when we say these things, because
Mm.
we put people in such a difficult position, and we try to put God. We can't put God in difficult positions because He is God. But we let Him down, and we let people down when we say
Mhm.
things like that. Like, if you had enough faith, then this wouldn't happen to you. But it is happening. And so what
Mhm.
do I do when it is happening? That means then if I don't have enough faith, that means, well, God helped them. He's not helping me. That means something is wrong with me. Well, I might as well leave then, because
Mhm.
I'm not shaking this thing.
Mhm.
So it's so dangerous when we say that to people.
Mhm.
And I cannot tell you how many conversations like this I've had with people. The last woman, I said, look, I'm just going to refer you to God. You go
Mhm.
sort it out with Him. I'm very clear about what He's asked me to do. If you have a problem with it, you go sort it out with Him. Because she
Mhm.
didn't think people who experienced things like sexual trauma and rape needed any help. She just thought if they just prayed, they'd be fine. I'm just like, that makes no sense.
No.
Not like you don't pray, but why do
Mm.
you think God wouldn't want somebody who experienced trauma to get support? Why would you think
Exactly.
that?
Mhm.
What kind of God do you think He is? But it's just like,
Exactly.
He's loving. He is loving. So, Lewis asks, so do you think when one is fully connected to Christ, they can still be depressed? Or rather, is it a lack of continual connection which can lead one into depression?
Wow.
So that's a loaded question. You know what? I wanted to ask that with a question, Lewis. Like, do you think when somebody's fully connected to Christ, they should have cancer or diabetes
Mm.
or hypertension
Mm.
or autoimmune conditions or any one of the physical illnesses that exist? Should people have that when they're connected to Christ? So I want people to think about that. So
Mhm.
I know we have, and I know Lewis is asking it for the benefit of everybody else, but I
Yeah.
know we have this thing. There's this thing about depression, and I don't know why we feel this way about depression.
People
Like,
see it as
you know,
leprosy. I don't know what it
I
is.
know it's just like,
It's
what's
like,
wrong with depression? Why we think people shouldn't have it? People have depression, like people have other
mm,
things. So
mm,
they're different. We said at the beginning that there are different kinds of depression. And there are different reasons why people become depressed. Many different reasons. It's wide and it's complex. Connection is one, not necessarily connection to Christ, but connection to humans is a part of why we have, like, people who experience attachment injuries have depression. People who don't have relational skills, so they're lonely, and which is a feature of depression, isolation. So that's why church is so important, to help people with depression. Not that it prevents depression, but it helps people with depression, because the social aspect of church, when you have safe, close, connected relationships, it helps to alleviate the loneliness and the isolation.
I like the
So when
healthy bit that you just said.
yeah, I had to stress the healthy bit, because it's the healthy bit that helps us to, and I mean, we connect with Christ through learning and understanding how we connect with other people. So if I'm having this amazing relationship with God and I go to church, but I'm in no connection there, that's lonely and that's sad, and that can, of course, influence, right? But it would be remiss of me to say depression is only that's the only thing, because we know, according to research, Lewis, and those who are listening and those who will listen later, people who experience childhood trauma are twice more likely to have depression. And that's trauma that you experience in those early years, between 0 to 18, right? You're more vulnerable to depression. Depression is also chemical imbalance in the body. There's so many reasons for depression. So when we just dismiss somebody who has depression and not minister to them and not provide them with the right support, because we think, well, if you were connected to Christ, you wouldn't have had it. That's really, one, dismissive and harmful. And two, that's blaming the person for, we don't know why they have depression. We don't know their life story. We don't know the trauma that they experience. We don't know what's going on in their body. We don't know if it's genetic, because sometimes it is genetic. We don't know the whys. So we can't just put it to, if you were connected, you wouldn't have it. If because you have it, you're not connected, go get connected and your depression will lift. That is trivializing, minimizing, damaging, harmful ways of responding to somebody with depression in church. I could say a lot more, but I'm going to let you say something that's helpful.
I was going to say as well, when it comes to depression, this is another thing that I learned in my own therapy. I learned so much. As a therapist, I learned a lot. It's like I learned more work on myself than what I do with clients. When it comes to depression as well, to me, I would say it's a choice. Like, it's a choice as in you can sit with it and not get any help. Then it's like you're choosing to continue in depression. But if you have depression and you are doing the work and trying to get healing, then that's the best thing that you can do. When you choose not to do anything, that's when it can become a problem. So
get help.
Get help. So it's not a choice. You can't choose whether you go through it or not. Like with mine came from having children. So when I gave birth in 2019, postnatal basically. So when I gave birth, it wasn't long after that. But like you say, it's your hormones that are playing a big part. Mine was environmental. It was relationship. It was quite a few things. But there is still a lot of stigma attached to it. And it's like, even when you do talk about it, it's like, this is what I was trying to say with Christ therapy. You didn't really have that space, because even in the church, sometimes it's like, you're not allowed to have these feelings. You're not allowed to be authentic with how you're actually feeling. And this is why I feel like the therapy room is a good thing, because we need this space to be able to have these kind of conversations, to educate.
Because I thank you so much for these questions. I think they're amazing questions. Some of these will be answered in the book, I Have God, I Don't Need a Therapist, because this is the reason. These are the reasons why we wrote that book, because it's so important for people to know that it's not a lack of faith. And we can, I mean, maybe you and I can say that because we both had therapy. We're counselors. We we're Christians and we believe in God. He is my friend. You know, I mean, like I love the Lord. He is a friend to me, and I couldn't live my life without him. And so that's why I feel honored partnering with him to do what I do. I know it's a privilege to be able to do what I do. And I know I got, in the early days, I got a lot of stick from church about my job. Just certain people, you know, how they look at you, maybe because you're not Christian enough because you choose that profession, and like you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong, but you don't know how I do it. You've never been my client. You have no idea how I do it, but you're doing it wrong. If you're not doing it this way, mind you, the people who say I'm not doing it this way, they're not counselors themselves. So get a lot of stick, lots of rejection, that kind of thing, to stand firmly in what I know I was called to do, and not shift. So now you now become not Christian enough, meaning me, I'm not Christian enough, because I'm just, so I get used to it, work through it, like, okay, I'm just gonna just be tunnel and continue serving people.
That's good.
Good questions. Any more? I like these questions. I like these questions.
These are on YouTube.
Please share the video. Huh?
These are on YouTube, these questions.
Yeah, they're on YouTube. You'll see them on YouTube. Yeah, if you go on the channel, you'll see them. Please share this video so we can continue the conversation. And maybe by next week, we'll have a special after party in Zoom for some of our community to join us. What we were talking about something before I answered Lewis's question around should Christians get the press? Basically, I'm summarizing the question as fully connected to Christ. You wouldn't be depressed if you were fully connected. I wish it was that simple. I really do.
I wish at that time, if it was that simple, and that can make you kind of go into more depression, because then you're thinking, I've got depression and God don't want me because I don't have enough faith in him, and I can't turn to my Christian friends because they're going to think I'm in sin and I'm not connected to the vine. And then I can't go to my non-Christian people because then I'm just sackcloth and ashes around them. And you become so isolated. You're isolated.
And it worsens the depression, that helps it. But you know, Natalia, your depression, that's something we don't talk about depression in general, because as you say, it's like leprosy in Christian community. But postnatal depression is even more so, isn't it? It's like I knew about it when I was pregnant with my children, and so I worked and pray against it, right? Because I knew the potential for us to have it. And my GP that I was with at the time, they knew that lots of people, so they did a very strategic visit, I think about 6 weeks after, because by then it would start to show. And so they did a nice visit and they brought me a nice teacup and a classical music CD.
Wow.
And so the health visitor encouraged me to sit, to put my foot up, to have a cup of tea, and to listen to the music. Because by then they would know if I'm coping or not. Because here's something about postnatal depression that's really important, that it impacts connection to the babies that we have, that we love, that we long for, that that grew inside of us. It impacts connection. And so it's not something that we want or desire. It's just something that is happening, and it's reality. And I never hear, while you might hear depression mentioned once a year when they have mental health day or when they have health day, postnatal depression, never. And I think it's something we need, maybe Christ Therapy can spend some time and talk about that some more, because I think it's so important.
It's so dear to my heart though, Joanna, especially like with mothers, like mommy burnout and things like that, because I'm just listening to you thinking, oh, isn't that amazing that they gave you that classical music and told you to have a sit down. Sometimes motherhood after you've given birth looks like there's no time to sit down.
No.
Like with those twins, I'd feed on one breast, and then
Oh,
I've got to
yeah.
feed them the other breast, and then
Yeah.
I've changed one of them's nappy, and then I got to change the other
Yeah.
one's nappy, and
Yeah.
then I got to sort out the
Yeah.
other kid, then I've got to bath them, then I've got to do this, and I've got to do that, and it's like,
Non-stop.
praise the Lord. I do not want like God to see me as complaining. I'm not complaining, but I'm just giving the reality of what it looks like. There is no time to sit down sometimes when you've got little babies screaming in your head at the same time. It was
Yeah.
so much, and it's like you go to church and you've managed to get there, and everyone's dressed, and everyone thinks
is an amazing
yeah
thing to get to
exactly.
church with babies.
And
Like,
everyone thinks you've got it all together because everyone looks clean and you're all right. And do you know what I mean? You're smiling, but inside you're crumbling. And it's like when people will say happy Sabbath or how are you or whatever, and it's like you don't really want to go into it, because if you start going into it, you're going to start getting tearful and breaking down, and then everyone's going to be looking like, what's wrong with you? And it's just, it's so much, and
I think
really
it's sad
is
that we have to pretend that we're okay, that you had to pretend that you were okay, that you didn't feel safe enough to just break down and cry, because that's what you needed.
But Joanna, another thing, when you do start opening up to people, if you do, a lot of times we'll make suggestions. Why are you breastfeeding them? Give them the bottle. Why are you doing this? Why don't you put them in nursery? Why don't you do this? And it's like, I didn't actually ask for your advice. And it's like, people, like, if you're telling them something, they're expecting to give you advice. And this is where therapy is completely different, because unless you ask for advice or if you want solutions, that's different. But if I've opened up to you, I'm not asking you to tell me what I should do. And that's half the time I just thought, I'm not going to say anything because you're just going to try and make some suggestion that's not useful to me.
Yeah, that would be more frustrating than anything else.
Yeah.
I just want you to listen to me, not give me, not tell me, why don't you breastfeed some more? I remember when we had twins too, and somebody said, you know, people would say, why don't you sleep when they sleep? They didn't sleep together. They didn't sleep at the same time. So I couldn't sleep when they sleep because they never slept at the same time. But yeah, people love giving advice. Okay, that's Glenn's. Okay, right. So they didn't sleep together, and if they slept together, then I could sleep too. So yeah, it's really sad that you couldn't sleep at church. You couldn't rather cry, just like be held. And you know, our mission is so similar but different in that I really, whenever I go to a church, I say, can you make this church a safe church? Whenever I speak in churches, can you make this one a safe church? And here is some of the, how do you block people on YouTube? Right, blocked. Can you make this church a safe church? Because here is what's needed, and here are some of the things that you can do to make your church a safe church, so that so that people I can turn up and cry. Yeah,
exactly.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Natalia, and I'll look out for the postnatal depression. The postnatal depression things. That's Glenn's question. That they see you as crazy. There's one question here. Can you see that? I agree. More awareness on postpartum, postnatal depression is needed. It really does. It is more light needs to be shone on it.
Yeah, but when you're surrounded by a lot of strong women, you know, it's like you've just got to be strong with them.
Yeah,
they've done it. They've been there, done that, and it's like, get on with it. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Lord, please, like, God is so merciful and just so gentle. I feel like we need more. People should, I don't know, it would be nice if, you know, there could be more gentleness around, more of the fruit of the spirit around. I feel like that's what we're lacking.
That because more healing is needed. That's why.
Mhm.
Because we need when we allow ourselves to heal, then we will be gentle. Because we're not healed, then we're not gentle. I have to be blocking people with inappropriate comments.
Oh, oh
Yeah,
dear.
more healing is needed. All right, people, if there are no more questions, then we will just tell you about what we'll be doing. Oh, I
Mhm.
remember, Natalia, I was going to say we should talk about some strategies when you're in a crisis,
Yes.
some healthy strategies, because we talked about some of the things that we use, and we want to talk about some healthy coping strategies. What are some healthy coping strategies that we could share with people?
Okay, so I would say a healthy coping strategy of mine that I try to do, or that I tell my clients to do, is when you can to be aware of what's going on. So
Mm-hmm.
once you can start feeling yourself getting frustrated, or you can feel a crisis arising, like around you. Let's say,
Yeah.
I don't know, let's say for the mum who is experiencing some kind of stress in the house with the children. I'll give that as an
Yeah.
example.
Yes.
Walking away. So to me, that would look like walking away, going into a room by myself for 5 minutes and praying. That's what would work for me. Praying, going away and praying, and then deep breathing, literally deep breathing,
Yeah.
and just taking that time that I need, and then going back. So that's just one coping strategy for a stressful mother. I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to give one example and then I'll come back and give another one, or I can continue. You let me know.
Okay. I mean, my favorite is silence, sitting in silence, just going away by myself in my room. My children are bigger now, but I used it even when they were small. Sometimes maybe you'll have to put something on for them to watch, but just a couple of minutes on my own where I can breathe, where I can pray, where I can just be with myself, helps me to manage when I'm feeling overwhelmed. Because what the crisis does to our bodies is the stress build, and you feel like you're being swallowed in stress. And so we want to lower the stress levels and get the cortisol to go in order for us to cope. So that's so sitting in silence and deep breathing helps to kind of just lower all of that. You want to share another one?
Yeah. Another one, it's not necessarily it's not for everyone, but it works for me. And that is giving myself an hour a day to just go to the gym. And that, honestly, by the grace of God, that has
Yeah.
been such an amazing tool for me to be able
Yeah.
to overcome
Yeah.
depression and stress. Just going and just getting my heart rate going, getting those healthy hormones going, sweating, literally removing myself out of the environment. So going outside the house to exercise. Exercise has just been an amazing coping strategy for me, because a lot of the same things that happen in your brain when you smoke, you can get the same. It's almost like the same sort of hormone that's released when you're exercising. So that's been an amazing thing for me.
Lots of happy hormones released.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you go every day?
I more or less do, yeah. A good 4 or 5 days a week.
Right. Oh, lovely. And while the gym is not for me, I go walking. I love going walking. And sometimes I miss, like, I haven't been since Tuesday. But when I can go out and go for a walk among the trees in nature, that really helps to restore me. So that's one. Or if it's a really stressful, because somebody's asking, hey guys, what's the topic? And we're talking about dealing with crisis. If it's a really tough week or a tough day and there's a lot of stuff happening and I am really struggling, going for a walk, that means my heart rate goes up, and I talk about this all the time, helps to release and to relax my body. So I'm very in tune with my body. And crisis, I know where in my body the crisis impacts. I know my shoulders will be stiff and my should be like this. So sometimes you find stuff like put your shoulders down, put it down. So my shoulders are stiff, my tummy is feeling nauseous, and I know that, okay, so here we go. My nervous system is, everything is in disarray. So I need to go for a longer walk then, and I need to do things that gets my heart rate up. So while I'm moving, my body is relaxing and the stress levels are reducing, receding, getting access to my frontal lobe, and I can think through what's going on.
Yeah. Another thing as well, Joanna, anyone who has any loved one around them, so whether it's your partner or your parent, depending on who's listening, for me, I feel like a healthy coping strategy is going to them and saying, you know what, I need a hug.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm a hugger.
Definitely.
Like, I need a hug. I need to feel some,
Yeah.
I mean, I need some connection. I need to be able to just rest on you. Like,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. So this some of this. YouTube recommended me this channel. Everything looks decent, so I subscribe. I'm here to listen. Hope you both are having a great day. Thank you so much. We're having a fantastic day, and we're glad that you're here.
Lovely to have you.
Yes. I share this in my I do groups for women who are healing from sexual abuse, and we have to teach lots of coping strategies. And one day, so a crisis can be a memory. A memory can trigger you, or an event, or memory of an event. Any one of those things can make a crisis, and any one of these coping strategies that we're telling you about is useful. So I teach this because I needed it, and I didn't even know that I was developing something. So something happened, and there was a memory, and no, it's an event that reminded me. And sometimes when we're in crisis and when we're triggered, it can be like an earthquake, like a tremor in the body. And when you're in tune with your body, you will know. And so this is happening, but I was busy. So I was busy. Sometimes we use busy to cope, which is not exactly great. I was busy and I was ignoring it. And when one evening after I finished one of the groups, my body is like, you need to deal with this right now. So I felt my whole body starts to become nervous, and the stress hormones was high, and I felt like I was disintegrating, like I was falling apart. The earthquake now was really happening. And I went in the living room. My husband didn't know what was happening, and he was washing up the dishes, and I just leaned on him, on his back, and just allow it. He's so stable and sturdy and solid, and I just lie there, just like, and I felt my whole body just start to relax, there, and just being a support. He was just like this wall that I needed. And so now I teach that to people when they're triggered, and lots of people use it and tell me how effective it is for them. Because when you're in a crisis, it's really important to know, what do I do to help my body stabilize so that my mind can be okay, right? So I say to people, if you don't have a person to lean on like that, it might not be safe to do it. You might be harmed or whatever, but if you don't have anybody to do that, to do it to the wall, I say just lean, let your body just rest on it. And sometimes I say just, allow your body to just fall gently to the floor, and to sit there and stay there with your back up against this solid structure that's providing safety and support for you while you're there. And I say, sit there, deep breathe, listen to music, journal, allow your nervous system to calm down while you're sitting there, and stay there for as long as you need to, until your body feels stable again, and then you go. So I know lots of people use that one and say it's, it's really effective when they're in those places of crisis where there's a trigger because there's a memory or an event or something happened, or they need to just stabilize themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Any more? One more. Let's share a few more and then we can wrap up.
Okay. Talking, verbalizing,
Yes,
even just talking
I
to
was gonna
yourself.
say,
Right now, I'm
yes.
not feeling good at all. Like calm down. Like right now, I just want to calm. I want to give myself some time. Just literally just speaking out loud. So whether you're speaking to God
Yeah.
or speaking to yourself, just
Yeah.
speaking out loud and just getting it off your chest.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose right now not to allow this to take over me. I'm going to stay calm. I'm going to count to 10,
Yeah.
Speaking it. I'm thinking.
Speak it. That's really good. Say it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Say it out loud. Sometimes it has less hold on you then.
Yes.
And on speaking it, sometimes the crisis means you might need a therapist. You might need to, and sometimes, and come back to what we started about it, people might be afraid of doing it, but you don't have to go, it doesn't have to be long. I've had people for 1 session, 3 sessions. You might just need 3 to go talk through it and to go get some tools. You might need 6. It doesn't have to be a lot, but you might need somebody who is outside of the situation to help you to get perspective and remind you of the good coping strategies that you have so that you can move forward again. Yeah. So those are what we're going to share this evening with dealing with crises. So we share some stabilization techniques, deep breathing. I want to just remind people about rest. Rest is an important one that is really helpful and beneficial. And on that note, it's nearly 9 o'clock in the UK, so we are going to go rest. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you for the questions. What should we talk about next week? Tell us what you want us to address next week. That's a good one, Lewis. Thank you for sharing that.
That's true. That's helped, Lewis. Music. That has helped a lot.
Music is really
Music's amazing, but I'm just thinking from that mom, that depressed mom who has noise all day.
Would work.
Sometimes some people it can work for, but not everybody. But yeah, I definitely do think song is a weapon, and soft music. Maybe it's soft music as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have special songs that I use for different types of crises. But I love music that tells a story. My children, old school country bluegrass type music I love. But it speaks, it's still a story, and it's almost telling the story that almost my story as well. It's almost telling my story. So that really does help me. And sometimes the ones that sing songs about Jesus and his care and his love, those help me too. It just reminds me.
Remember that song, Joanna, leaning on the everlasting arm, when you was talking about falling, on your husband. Leaning,
right.
So it's that leaning, safe and secure from all alarms, leaning on his everlasting arms.
Yes. We'll be back here again on Friday at 8 p.m. GMT time. So we're in the UK and we're here at 8 p.m. every Friday. We're really glad you came, and we're sorry that you can go back and watch from the beginning. There's lots and lots of good stuff there that you will enjoy. All right. Any last thing that you want to say, Natalia? What should we talk about next week?
That's what I was going to say to you. What do you think, Joanna?
We'll put the poster out.
Yeah.
And let people know. We'll see if anybody asks us questions throughout the week. If not, we'll just come and talk about, give you some more tips and stuff to cope. It's the therapy room. We'll just talk therapy stuff. So
yes,
everything's
therapy.
We have lots of therapy stuff. So Have an amazing evening and enjoy your weekend and your week. If you want to, we're going to put our details below this video that you can contact either Natalia or myself if there's anything that, any questions that you have. And from next week, we'll tell you some more about the after party where we have on Zoom, and you will have opportunities to join us there. Have an amazing evening. Take care.
Bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye.